You're fine.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Voice is breaking, yeah, but I think problem in the internet from my side. I'll try to see if there is some other network I can use because I'm using Geo. And if I can use another network, then let me try. My network. Am I better audible now or the same problem? Am I audible
Sir,
better?
your voice is breaking in between. Now you are audible. Hello.
So, how is it now? Is it okay or same problem still? Is it better than before?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Better
Yes,
than
Better
sir.
than
before.
before, right? Okay, so I've just changed my network. So probably this is better today. All right. So if I'm audible and visible clearly, am I audible and visible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
sir.
Yeah. Good. So now we shall start the class. All right. So well, today we are going to start a very important topic. We have been talking about this earlier, occasionally, but today we shall discuss about this in detail. All right. And that is on the atmospheric instability. Right. In the last class, we discussed about the saturated adiabatic lapse rate. Right. We talked about the equivalent potential temperature. Okay. And we also discussed about the Norman's rule. Okay. Norman's rule. And about the net effects of ascent followed by descent. Those things we had discussed last time, right? So does everyone remember what is the equivalent potential temperature? Hmm? What is the equivalent potential temperature? Can I ask somebody by name? Prasov, can you explain what is equivalent potential temperature? Prasov,
Yes, sir.
can you explain what is equivalent potential temperature?
Sorry, sir.
No? That means you are not studying. What about Anjali? Can you explain what is equivalent potential temperature? Anjali,
Sir, sir,
what is equivalent potential temperature?
uh, the equivalent potential temperature of a air parcel
Uh,
when all the water vapors condense.
uh-huh. And then after that, because we are saying equivalent potential temperature, we are not saying equivalent temperature, but we are saying equivalent potential temperature, right? So there has to be some difference between equivalent temperature and equivalent potential temperature, right? Anjali, yes or no? Who can say? Bijit, can you explain what is the definition of equivalent potential temperature? Bijit, can you explain? Bijit, everybody is silent. Can you hear me, Bijit? Are you able to hear me? Bijit,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, so can you define what is the equivalent potential temperature? No answer. Sri Lakshmi, Can you explain?
Sir, it is the sir.
Yes.
Sir, just, sorry, sir, I can't explain it. Sir, wait. Sir, when the
The voice is breaking. The
Sir.
voice is breaking. So you also don't remember. Now I just give you open. Tell me.
Sir,
Yeah,
Sir,
tell me.
when
You are able
the
to.
so when the air sample is condensed and when the air sample is condensed by the pseudo-adiabatic process, so and which is then brought by adiabatically, dry adiabatically.
Then after that,
Then it is brought back only to dry adiabatic. So that is good.
brought back to where? Brought back to where?
To the normal pressure.
Normal pressure or a standard pressure?
So standard pressure.
Standard pressure, yes. See, the difference between equivalent temperature and equivalent potential temperature. Whenever we say potential, like potential temperature, simple temperature or potential temperature, equivalent temperature and equivalent potential temperature. Right? Whenever we say potential, should remember that when we say potential, that means the parcel of air at any level in the atmosphere is brought back adiabatically to a standard pressure level, which is considered to be 1000 millibar. That the temperature it would attain, right? The temperature that air parcel would attain when it is brought down adiabatically to a standard pressure level of 1000 millibar is the potential temperature, right? That is the potential temperature, right? Similarly, when we say equivalent potential temperature, somebody tried to explain that the equivalent potential temperature of an air parcel is the temperature that it would attain when all its moisture content is condensed and the heat released during the condensation is used to warm up the air. Then the temperature that the air parcel would attain is the equivalent temperature. And because the moisture has condensed, so it has precipitated out from the atmosphere. The atmosphere has lost the moisture, and so it is a irreversible process. We talked about the reversible and irreversible process, right, last time. So that is the equivalent temperature. But when the same parcel of air, after its condensates are have fallen down and the heat released during the condensation is used to warm up the air parcel, and the air parcel subsequently is brought back to a standard pressure level of 1000 millibar, then there is the equivalent potential temperature. You have to clearly remember the differences between these different temperatures, right? And as I said, whenever we say potential temperature, that means the temperature that the parcel would have when it is compressed adiabatically, right? Compressed adiabatically, or you can say brought down, right, adiabatically to a standard pressure level of 1000 millibar is the potential temperature, right? So you have to be very careful because these differences, the definitions are very important to understand the concept of these different types of potential temperature. are very, very important to understand the atmospheric instability or different atmospheric processes, right? Now, as I said, today we are going to talk about the atmospheric instability, which we had also referred to many times in the past. Okay. But today we are going to discuss in detail about the atmospheric instability, right? Now, all the phenomena that you see in the atmosphere occurs because of the instability, presence of the instability in the atmosphere, right? Whatever you see, whether it is you see a cloud, a cumulonimbus, intense weather, cyclone, right? All these things occur in the atmosphere because of the presence of some kind of instability, right? Because of the presence of some kind of instability in the atmosphere. Let me see. I wanted to go directly over there. Just a minute. Right. And obviously, in the atmosphere, there are many types of instability. Right. There are many types of instability in the atmosphere. Okay. What we are going to discuss today is basically the thermodynamic stability or static stability or static instability or thermodynamic instability. That's what we are going to discuss, right? As the name suggests, thermodynamic instability, that means it has something to do with the profiles of temperature and moisture distribution in the atmosphere, right? The stability, this kind of stability, the thermodynamic instability, is caused purely because of the distribution of temperature and moisture in the atmosphere. But there can be other types of instability, which can be like dynamic instability or inertial instability, right? Inertial instability, dynamic instability, barotropic instability, baroclinic instability, right? Kelvin-Helmholtz instability, right? Many types of instability, symmetric instability. There are so many types of instabilities which causes different phenomena in the atmosphere, right? Different phenomena in the atmosphere occurs because of different types of instability. When we say about the dynamic instability, that is, as the name suggests, it is purely because of the characteristics of the flow pattern existing in the atmosphere. Most of the dynamic instability are because of the types of flow pattern in the atmosphere, and each of them has different visual effect in the sky. Sometimes you see different types of clouds in the sky, and the type of clouds present in the sky can give you an indication or a hint that what kind of instability is occurring in the atmosphere, right? Which you will study those kind of many of those types of instability, especially the dynamic instability, you will study in your dynamic meteorology class. In the atmospheric dynamics course, you will study most of the dynamic instability like inertial instability, barotropic instability, baroclinic instability, even Kelvin-Helmholtz instability, right? You will study in your dynamic meteorology class, and also some of them you will study in your next semester, like atmospheric modeling, symmetric instability, etc., right? So here in physics of the atmosphere, we are basically discussing the thermodynamic instability. And as I said, that thermodynamic instability occurs because of the typical characteristic profiles of temperature and moisture distribution in the vertical in the atmosphere, right? That is a thermodynamic instability or static instability. Now, when we say static stability or thermodynamic instability, that is different for unsaturated air and for the saturated air. When air is saturated, then the instability is different, which I'll discuss about that. And when the air is unsaturated, the instability is different because the lapse rate changes accordingly, right? When the air is unsaturated, then the air parcel would follow the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Whereas when the air parcel is saturated, it will follow the moist adiabatic lapse rate or saturated adiabatic lapse rate or pseudo adiabatic lapse rate. Most of them are synonym. Saturated adiabatic lapse rate, moist adiabatic lapse rate, pseudo adiabatic lapse rate, right? They are generally synonyms, and it is followed by the air parcel when it is saturated. So let's talk first about the stability of the unsaturated air parcel. Right? Now consider a layer of the atmosphere in which the actual temperature lapse rate, which is measured by the radiosonde, because radiosonde is used to absorb the temperature officer profile of the atmosphere. So when the actual lapse rate of the surrounding air or environment is less than the dry adiabatic lapse rate, gamma D, okay. Let's see the figure, for example. Now in this figure, on the left hand side, okay, you see on the y-axis there is height, on the x-axis there is temperature, right? So let us see, consider a cross point between the dry adiabate and the environmental temperature. Right? This is denoted by gamma. Okay, that is the lapse rate of the environment surrounding air, gamma. Whereas this is gamma D, that indicates the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Is this diagram visible to you clearly? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
right. So let's say when air parcel is unsaturated, okay, and it is raised above this point O, the air parcel is lifted above this point O and brought to this point A, okay, or you can say brought to this point B, right? Then because the air parcel is unsaturated, so it will follow or lose the temperature at the rate of dry adiabatic lapse rate, right? Height being the same, at the same height in the atmosphere, the air parcel, because it is unsaturated, so it will follow the dry adiabatic lapse rate, or it will lose the temperature at the rate of dry adiabatic lapse rate, right? Whereas this is the temperature which the surrounding air will have, because this is the environmental lapse rate, gamma, lapse rate of the surrounding air, right? So in this diagram, that means the parcel of air is here, and this is the surrounding air temperature. So this parcel will find itself colder than the surrounding air, because surrounding air temperature is this one, TB, indicated by TB, whereas the temperature of the air parcel is indicated by TA. So this air parcel will find itself colder than the surrounding air. So if it is colder than the surrounding air, it will become denser and it will be heavier than the surrounding air. So it will try to come back or sink down to the original level, right? come back or sink down to the original level, right? In the same way, even if the parcel is brought down at a level, let us say here, then what will happen is that when it is brought down from this level, O, say to another level here, then because the parcel is unsaturated, so again its lapse rate will be following the dry adiabatic lapse rate, right? Whereas the surrounding air will have the environmental lapse rate. So at any point below this O, original point, the air parcel will become warmer than the surrounding air, right? At any height below this O, the parcel of air will be warmer than the surrounding air. So once it's warmer, it will tend to rise and go back to the original level O, right? So no matter whether you lift the air parcel or raise the air parcel to any height, or you bring down the air parcel to any height below the original level, it will have a tendency to go back to the original level O. That means the air parcel is stable. The air parcel is stable with respect to the surrounding air. Okay, whether you are raising up or bringing down, it will have a tendency to return to the original level. So this is the situation of stability, absolute stability, okay, of the air parcel. Now in the next diagram, let's say the lapse rate of the surrounding air environment is greater than the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Suppose if the lapse rate of the environment is greater than the dry adiabatic lapse rate, then what will happen? If the air parcel is raised from its original level to any point A, now because the air is unsaturated, so it will again follow the dry adiabatic lapse rate here. Whereas the temperature of the surrounding air at the same height indicated by this point B will be this Tb. So in this case, the parcel of air will be warmer than the surrounding air at the same level. So once it is warmer, then it will have a tendency to go upwards by itself because it is lighter than the surrounding air, right? Warmer and lighter than the surrounding air. So if it is brought to this level, it will be warmer than the surrounding air, and so it will further try to rise. In the same way, if the parcel of air is brought down to any level, let us say here, then as it will follow the dry adiabatic lapse rate, right? So at any level, let us say here, its temperature will be colder than the surrounding air at the same height. So it will try to sink further because it is colder and so denser and heavier. So it will sink further. So in this case, when the environmental lapse rate is greater than the dry adiabatic lapse rate, if you lift it up, it will try to further go up or rise upward. It will, if you push it down, then it will further try to go downward. So that means it will not return to its original level. And so that means the atmosphere is unstable. The atmosphere is unstable. Okay. So these are the two important types of thermodynamic instability, right? So let's see further the same thing. Now these are the two conditions. Now in this case, figure A shows the positive static stability when gamma is less than gamma D, right? The rate of change of temperature with height in the surrounding air is less than the rate of change of temperature of the dry adiabatic or parcel. Whereas in this case, it is a negative static instability or simply unstable situation in the atmosphere. In which case, gamma is greater than the gamma D. That means the involuntary lapse rate is more than the dry adiabatic lapse rate. Just imagine, dry adiabatic lapse rate is about 9.8, but the involuntary lapse rate is even more than that for the displacement of the unsaturated air particle. So this is a case of pure unstable situation, instability. So most of the clouds that form, okay, especially the convective clouds, occur because of this unstable situation, instability, thermodynamic instability in the atmosphere, right? So now same thing is explained here in words. If a particle of unsaturated air, originally located at level O, is raised to a height defined by points A and B, its temperature will fall to Ta, which is lower than the ambient temperature Tb for the same level. So the colder particle of air must be denser than the warmer ambient air. Therefore, if left to itself, the particle will tend to return to its original level. If you raise up, come back. If you bring it, push it down, it will also go again, come back to original level. Right? So this is a stable situation. Whereas in this case, if the particle is displaced downward from O, well, in the same case, then the ambient air, and if left to itself, the particle will tend to rise back to the original level. In both the cases, the particle of air encounters a restoring force after being displaced, which inhibits vertical mixing. Right? Thus, the condition gamma less than gamma D, in this situation corresponds to a stable stratification or positive static stability for unsaturated air particle. See, the entire gimmick will change. When the particle is saturated, the entire gimmick will change. And we shall discuss that later. Right? So in general, the larger the difference between gamma and gamma D, the greater the restoring force for a given displacement and the greater the static stability. Okay. If gamma is greater than gamma D, in the second figure, as you have already seen in the last slide, a parcel of unsaturated air displaced upward will arrive at A with a temperature greater than that of the environment. Therefore, it will be less dense than the ambient air. So, if left to itself, will continue to rise. Right? In the second figure, the last slide. Similarly, if the parcel is displaced downward, it will be cooler than the ambient air, and it will continue to sink if left to itself. Okay. Such unstable situations generally do not persist in the free atmosphere because the stability is eliminated by strong vertical mixing as fast as it forms. See, in the real atmosphere, what will happen? Once the parcel of air is rising up because of the unstable situation, immediately mixing will occur. It will start mixing with the surrounding environment. And once the mixing starts occurring, that means the temperature of the air particle will become equal to that of the surrounding air, or specific humidity of the air particle will become equal to the surrounding air. And so stability will get destroyed, or instability will get destroyed, right? So after some time, the atmosphere will become neutral because they are same, right? So in the real atmosphere, that's what happens most of the time. Initially, no, the particle will rise up quickly because of the unstable situation, but during the ascent, will also start mixing. So-called entrainment, retrainment process. We shall discuss about that later on. Right? Entrainment, detrainment process. Characteristics. Okay. So now let me explain to you, in another diagram. Let me see if we can draw for you. Draw. Okay, are you able to see this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
what I was trying to explain to you is that let us say this is a cloud. Okay, this is a cloud parcel. Okay, and say this is, let us say this is your ground, earth surface. Okay, and once it is ascending, okay, there is a cloud-based mass flux. We shall study about that later on in detail. Okay, let's say this axis is your height, Z. So, as long as the temperature of this cloud parcel, let us say Tc, okay, is greater than the surrounding air. This is T. Let us say this is the temperature of the ambient air. As long as this Tc is greater than T, the cloud parcel will be buoyant, will have the buoyancy and will keep rising upward. But while it is rising up, what will happen? Because these boundaries of the clouds, okay, they are basically nothing but the cloud air which are saturated. It will try to mix up with the surrounding air. Okay, or we call entrain. It will entrain. Right? The surrounding air will be continuously mixed with the cloud air through its boundaries. Okay, lateral boundary. These are the lateral boundaries of the cloud. So the surrounding air will be continuously mixed up with the cloud air, and this mixing will cause the dilution. Will cause the dilution of the cloud air, and so once the cloud air is fully mixed with the surrounding air, that means it will lose its identity. It will become neutral, right? It will become neutral and it will no longer be able to rise further. It has lost its identity. So this process is called the entrainment process. This is called the entrainment process. Okay, which occurs from the side of the clouds or lateral boundaries of the clouds. Also, once it is, inside a deep convective cloud, there are strong updrafts, which you may be knowing or you shall study. There are strong updrafts and there are strong downdrafts inside the deep cumulonimbus cloud. And these downdrafts, as soon as they emerge out of the cloud, they will start spreading. Okay. And because the downdrafts are coming from deep within the cloud, from a higher altitude, so they will be colder. They will be colder, right? So once it comes to the ground, because it cannot penetrate the ground, it has to go around like this. So suppose if you are standing here, anybody standing here will feel cool, chilled air. You might have noticed whenever a thunderstorm is passing over you, you will find a cool, chilled air. Have you noticed that? During the nor'westers,
Yes, sir.
have you experienced cool, chilled air when the cumulonimbus is or thunderstorm is passing over you? Yes or no? Am I
Yes, sir.
audible
Yes,
to
sir.
you? Yeah. So you feel cool chill air because this chill air is nothing but the downdraft. The chill air is nothing but the downdraft which is coming from a higher level in the atmosphere, which is cold, right? So cool downdraft. Whereas from the boundary layer, the warm, moist air is going upward. That is the updraft. But how much it can go up? Somewhere it has to stop, right? Say at the top of the cloud, which is called the level of equilibrium. I had explained to you about the equilibrium temperature level in the T5 gram earlier, right? From the top of the cloud, this updrafts will start diverging. They will start diverging. You might have seen in the cumulonimbus cloud, in some typical cumulonimbus cloud photographs, there is a so-called anvil. Suppose if this is a cumulonimbus cloud, deep cumulonimbus cloud, then from the top, there is an anvil spreading of the cloud. Have you noticed this kind of cloud? From the top, there is a cirrus. This is a cirrus cloud. It's called the cirrus cloud coming out of the top of the cumulonimbus, right? This is called the anvil. This is called the anvil of the cloud. Have you seen this kind of clouds in the real nature? It occurs very frequently whenever cumulonimbus occurs, deep cumulonimbus occurs. Although initially it will not be visible to you because the sky above you is surrounded by the base of the cloud, because you may be standing here, right? So you can see only the base of the cloud, and what is happening at the top you will not be able to see. But you are seeing it from here, from a far distance. Suppose you see a person, okay, then you will be able to see this anvil clearly. So this is the anvil. So this cloud properties are diverging upward from the top of the cloud, and this is the downdraft. Okay, so this is the updraft, upward motion, and this is the downdraft. Okay, downdraft. And this is the entrainment, and this is called the detrainment, just reverse of that. Detrainment process. Is that clear? Yes or no? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these are the different processes which
Yes, sir.
occur. Yeah. They are the different processes which occur in typical thunderstorms, nor'westers, cumulonimbus cloud, convective clouds. Okay. And if you have not seen the cumulonimbus cloud in nature, let me open a diagram for you. You may be able to see. Typical cumulonimbus cloud. Let me see if I can show you some diagram. See if I can show you the image of that. Yes. Are you able to see this cloud?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me open up properly. Yeah. See?
Yes, sir.
Good. So now this is a matured cumulonimbus cloud. Okay, this is matured cumulonimbus cloud. And from the top, see the surrounding area is spreading. And they are all the high clouds, cirrus clouds. Okay, that emanating from the top. That is the cirrus cloud, also called the anvil of the cloud. There are also cumulonimbus cloud. I mean, there are also convective cloud, but they are not matured yet. They are still developing. Small cloud, they are still developing. This is the developed one. Okay. Similarly, if you can see some other picture also, I can show you. Oops. Let me show you some more diagrams. Now, interesting. There are many interesting clouds here. Let us see this one. I can't tell. I'll probably this one. No. Are you able to see this cloud?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is also a matured cumulonimbus cloud. Okay. Actually, there are so many cells, not one cell. This is a multicellular cloud. And these are in the initial stage of formation, development. They are in the initial stage of formation and development. Whereas this is this cell is already matured. So actually, in reality, there are an ensemble of cumulonimbus clouds. Some of them are already matured, some of them are still developing, some of them may be in the dissipating stage also. So there are a spectrum of different clouds of different sizes. This is a deep cloud. These are shallow clouds still developing. A spectrum of clouds of different size and shape and in different stages of their life cycle. Okay, some are developing, some are matured, some are dissipating, and this is the top of the cloud. So this is the anvil. This is the anvil of the cloud. Okay, anvil of the cloud. And these are all nothing but very high clouds. Cirrus, cirrocumulus, generally cirrus. Okay. So as I said, from this lateral boundary of the clouds, you have got continuous mixing called the entrainment process, and from the top there is a detrainment process. Okay. So you
Yes,
can
sir.
see many more types of clouds now yourself. Now you can find on Google image. So many varieties of. This is another very interesting cloud. This is here. Yeah. Trying to. I'm just asking something. But are you able to see this cloud?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to enlarge it, but anyway. So I think the previous version was slightly better. Yeah. No. Yeah, this is slightly bigger. So this is another interesting cloud, right? It's looking like a hat, as if this cumulonimbus is wearing a hat, isn't it? And this is nothing but the anvil. It's called the anvil. From a distance, you can easily recognize this is a cumulonimbus cloud. And in reality, there will be lots of lightnings taking place, right? A lot of lightnings will be taking place inside. Okay. You are looking at it from the distance, but if you are just standing below the base of this cloud, then obviously you can't see, right, this top, because you will be just watching the base, which is the nimbostratus. Okay, the base is the nimbostratus cloud, whereas the top is the cirrus cloud, and below the base, just directly below the base, you will be finding lot of downdrafts, strong, cool, chilled air, right? And maybe big raindrops, heavy precipitation at the base, right? So these are the typical characteristics of the convective cloud, deep convective cloud. Okay. And this kind of clouds form because of the presence of strong instability in the atmosphere. This can occur. I mean, so many in real atmosphere. Not just only one process is operating, but many processes are maybe operating. Thermodynamic instability is very important for the development of these clouds, but at the same time, the conducive flow pattern, the atmospheric dynamics also must be supportive, right? To be able to sustain these kind of clouds, right? So, because of the presence of the supporting flow pattern and the existence or presence of the thermodynamic instability, these kind of clouds can occur. Otherwise, what will happen? Many times it will just die out in the beginning itself. Like, for example, these cells, there are so many cells here, right? There are so many cells here. But these cells, if the surrounding atmospheric dynamics is not supportive, all of them may not develop and become mature. Some of them will die out. But you will study later on in detail in the cloud physics or modeling of the clouds and the precipitation that often when the surrounding atmosphere is supportive, right, atmospheric dynamics are supportive, then this kind of situation create a chain reaction, right? And one cloud develops, precipitates, and dissipates after that. The three stages: formation, development or maturity, and finally dissipation. Three stages of the life cycle of the cloud, right? So one cloud will die, other clouds will become matured, a new cloud will form, a chain reaction, right? And as I said, surrounding the cloud, there is strong downdraft. Actually, there are so many things occurring around the cloud. There are so many things occurring. One is the downdraft, which I explained to you, which is occurring here. One is this is downdraft, right? This is downdraft. Is this visible? Back again?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually this is a downdraft which is coming from the cloud itself, within the cloud. This downdraft is coming from the cloud itself, or sinking motion is strong. They are quite strong. Even the updrafts are much stronger than the downdrafts. These updrafts are much stronger than the downdrafts. And in extreme cases, when the cumulonimbus is highly unstable or highly deep, very mature, very intense, then the magnitude of these downdrafts can be as high as about 20 to 30 meter per second. 20 to 30 meter per second. Can you imagine? What is equivalent to, say, 20 meter per second in terms of kilometer per hour?
80 kilometer per hour.
Huh? How much?
80.
80 kilometer per hour, right? 80 kilometer per hour. So just imagine if you experience or if you are lifted by a wind force of 80 kilometer per hour or 100 kilometer per hour, you will be just lifted upward. Won't you? You will be just lifted upward, right? That's what you see in mature tornadoes. That's what happens. Or it can lift the trucks, big lorries. It can just lift because such a strong updraft speed. right? You might have heard a story in India. It is not so frequent, although it does occur, tornadoes. But in Oklahoma area of USA and many other central United States, South Central United States, every year there are so many tornadoes taking place. India also occurs, 2 or 3 tornadoes occur in different parts, mostly in the northeastern area, but also it occurs in Odisha. Sometimes it occurred, in the Punjab, Delhi region also, West Bengal, of course, common Bangladesh area, Assam, it occurs. And you might have heard the study that, animals can get lifted up in the sky. Big animals, cows, buffaloes, trucks, cars, because of such a strong updraft speed, 20, 30 meter per second, 80 to 120 kilometer per hour, right? Whereas downdrafts are weaker. Downdrafts are weaker than the updrafts, right? So what happens is that this is the inside the cloud. This updraft and downdrafts are occurring inside the cloud. But because the updraft is so strong, that means the air mass below the clouds is being pumped upward. The surrounding air is being suctioned or pumped upwards. So, and very little is actually coming down through the downdraft because the speed is much less than compared to updraft speed. So much is being pushed upward, but very little is coming downward. But according to the conservation principle, conservation of mass, whatever is lifted upward must come down also. Normally there will be balance, right? According to the mass conservation law of conservation of mass, there must be a balance. And therefore, you will find strong subsidence motion surrounding the cloud. This is called the subsidence. Now, this subsidence can occur because of the mass balance, and also sometimes because from the anvil of the cloud there is a rainfall. Suppose this is there are so many things you have to know, you should learn. See, there is rainfall, rain coming down from the top of the cloud, and there is also coming down from the base of the cloud. Okay, from the base of the cloud, the rainfall is taking place, and also from this surrounding top of the cloud, the rainfall is coming. But the physics of the two rainfall are different. The mechanism of the two rainfalls are different, right? This one, which is coming directly from the base of the cloud, this is called the convective rain. And this rain, which is coming from the top of the cloud, this is called the large scale rain. Okay, this is called the large scale rain, also called the non-convective rain. Non-convective rain. Non-convective large scale rain. There are the different, in mechanisms of precipitation, which you will study later on in detail. Okay. So, when the air is diverging like this, what will happen is that whatever is the moist air around this, these are suppose is another air parcel, moist air parcel. They will be pushed. They will be pushed by these downdrafts, and they will try to go up. So once they go up, then it will form another small cloud. it will form another small cloud. And this is what you are seeing here. And this this one, chain of the cloud, right? Because one cloud is becoming mature, and from the mature cloud there is strong downdraft, which is pushing up the surrounding moisture parcel, which are going up and forming another new cloud, new cells. So there is a chain reaction. Okay. So you can see yourself now for your own interest and curiosity. You can see further yourself. I think we have already exceeded time. It's already about 1:43. So for today, we have to stop. Okay. For today, we shall try to stop. So, was I audible and visible clearly today?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any question for today?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Where was my window? Yeah, this was my window. So I will stop sharing the presentation. Stop presentation. Okay. So I see that only 10 students are left. Anybody who missed the attendance today? Everybody was present in the beginning, right? So if there is no other question, then we have to stop. We'll stop the class today. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop recording. Stop recording.